And welcome to the shop. Alright, it's been a couple of weeks since I did the unboxing of this Glarry Stratocaster. I've been letting it sit and just haven't been working on many guitar projects, so I thought it was time to get to it. And I have not gone back to watch that video, but I have noodled around with this a little bit since then, and my impression, I think, is pretty much the same, that the wood is actually quite good and the hardware is junk. But if you're a modder, that's the right side of that fence to be on. If you've got lousy wood, good hardware won't save it. And I'm not talking about the quality of the individual boards, I just mean the overall quality of the build. The neck pocket is nice and tight, the neck is straight. The fretboard is not bad at all. But the tremolo is junk, the pickups are seriously some of the worst I've heard. And it doesn't hold tune very well. They have this tremolo screwed down so tight that it barely moves. And that's because if you wiggled this thing at all, it goes out of tune very, very quickly. So, I want to talk for a second again about the idea of Glarry being a beginner's guitar. Now, I know they're a super attractive idea for parents whose kids maybe want an electric guitar, but a $70 guitar is maybe not a great investment because it's just going to sound awful. So if your child is constantly going out of tune and can't hear a guitar that sounds like the sounds that they hear from their favorite records, YouTube videos, what are kids listening to? I don't know, I don't have kids. They're probably not going to stick with it, is my thought. But man, if you're a modder, I think this might be the business. So we're going to find out if this is a modder's dream or a Halloween nightmare. I will point out there are two finish flaws in this that are rather unusual. We'll see if my camera will pick this up. One is right here. It's got these little chatter marks in it. Where I presume somebody dug in a little bit too hard with the buffer as they were buffing out that finish. And the other one is right here at the tip. You can see it's delaminating the paint a little bit. But other than that, we can work with that. Alright. Also, I did not keep serious track of the price of these upgrades because I'm going to try and use stuff that I just have laying around the shop. Now, I did pay cash for it at some point, but it has been years ago and I just don't remember it. So, what I plan on putting on this guitar is a set of Grover tuners. They're not locking tuners, but they're considerably better than the tuners that are on it. And I think that they'll just bolt right on with no modifications. I have, there we go, an upgraded nut. It's the right thickness, but it's way too wide, which is annoying, but we'll deal with that when the time comes. I got an upgraded trim from GFS. This is the only piece that I bought new for this build, and it was $40. So that's not an inconsiderable amount, being more than half the price of the guitar. And then again, a GFS pickguard with 3 little killer pickups. So we will see how difficult this is to put together. Now, I noticed this morning as I was having breakfast and watching YouTube that Phil McKnight is also upgrading a Glarry Strat. He's going way, way farther than I am. He put steel frets in it and is apparently doing some other stuff. I have no interest in refretting a guitar. As I said in my intro, I do kind of want to scallop this fretboard and make it kind of a Ritchie Blackmore-esque kind of fretboard. But we're going to save that for the absolute last thing. We'll see how all of the other upgrades go first. So, let's get the strings off and get this build started. Okay, I've taken the strings off. I was concerned that something with a bigger trim block might not actually fit. But as you can see, there's actually quite a lot of room back there. This is really an interesting design. They actually have cambered this so that it's got a larger base plate and a little bitty block that the springs go into. So that's a very interesting design. But I think that I'll be okay putting on that GFS Tremolo. So part of this is going to be to see how easily all of this stuff goes together. And we will find out. I was watching an Anderton's video and they were doing speaker swapping, and they actually played yakety sax during the fast forward parts. Knew that was a good idea. Getting ahead of myself. Usually easier to loosen nuts and then the screws. And as always when I'm in the shop, I apologize for the way the light goes up and down. I have natural light behind me. As clouds pass over, the camera changes focus. Even though these are really cheap tuners, they do use 10mm nuts. So I'm taking that as a good sign that my Godot replacements will fit. Okay, now that the old tuners are off, I'm going to show you the back of this headstock. Can you see how it's left an indent in the wood? This is maple, I presume, but it is really soft maple. So, I still don't understand the economics of a $70 guitar. Even if all of the parts combined on this were, say, 30 bucks, you still have the labor to put it together, and let's not forget shipping from China, which is not free. So yeah, I don't, and then they throw in that ultra cheap gig bag and a guitar cable. I mean, again, even if that stuff was $2.50, how do they make money on this? Okay, tuner goes right in. It's a little tight, not a good sign. And yes, I know I'm putting black tuners on, but the rest of the hardware is chrome or nickel. Can't say that on my $70 guitar build I'm all that concerned about matching hardware. Okay, so that Godot tuner went right in. I think that will be a big upgrade in tuning stability. I'm going to go ahead and pause this and install the rest of the tuners. That was unquestionably the easiest part of this upgrade. So now I've got Godot tuners in place of the old unbranded tuners. What about putting new string trees on it? And I may do that in the future. So the next big part that I need to see if it fits is the upgraded trim system. So let's take a look at that. First we pull off these springs. Man, they really do have that thing locked down tight. Alright, I gotta get some pliers and go at this thing. So this is a new experience for me. I have never built a guitar with the 6-screw trim system. In fact, I've only built one guitar with a trim system at all, and that was that Wilkinson kit, which had the 2-post Wilkinson trim. So I don't know much about these systems. Except that I'm sure it wants to be at least a little bit floating. The screws on the trim claw and back are screwed all the way into the body, so there's lots of room to float it a little bit. But honestly, a new trim system and new tuners are going to be kind of pointless if I don't replace that incredibly cheap plastic nut. I have also never replaced a nut. So again, if you're going to experiment with upgrades that you've never done before, a $70 guitar is the way to go. I keep saying $70. I think this was $80, but it was on sale for $72.99 or something when I got it, so. Point is, it's inexpensive. You know, a lot of people will start with like a Squire. Well, you know, a Squire Vintage Modified is $450. You could buy a lot of Glarrys for $450. Okay. Again, look at this trim block. This is very interesting. It could be this thick, but they've cast or machined out that part so that it's very, very thin. I actually like the look of these saddles. Don't have any problems with those at all. By way of contrast, the Guitar Fetish trim has your very classical bent steel saddles and this big brass block, which is supposed to add sustain and resonance. I have no idea if it does or not. So first test, does it fit? And the answer is no. Oops. Okay. What's it hanging up on? Well, that is disappointing. I'm going to see if I can show this with the black. I'm not really sure this is going to set up, but it's actually got ledges right there and there. I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not, but it literally has ledges in the wood that are going to prevent me from putting that other trim block down. Also, maybe you can see, because the trim was pressed down so hard into the body, it's actually deformed their super cheap paint job. Not all plastic paints are created equal. Well, that is unexpected. Not sure what I'm going to do about that. That's a pretty substantial lip that exists there for no particular reason. Alright. Now I can see, even if I were to, say, take a Dremel bit and route out that lip, just this physical hole in the back of the guitar is not big enough for this bigger trim block. Well, I had not anticipated that at all. Well, I think both routing out the inside and the exterior dimensions of that pocket is more work than I want to do in my little shop. So I'm going to put the old trim system back. We're just going to call that good and move on to working with the nut and the pickups.